Alright, thanks for joining me. Today's paint scheme is going to be a gross flood infected Spartan paint scheme. We're going to be painting the Mark 7 model here, and don't worry if the thumbnail was a little bit too much of a teaser. I'll show you what it's going to look like in the end with this Zvezda. Looks really awesome. It's probably one of my favorite models now. You can see how subtly the flood infection has kind of taken over the armor. You got the yellow and you got the green armor with that nice shiny red visor and the rusted gun. It's a really, really cool scheme, and I'm pretty excited. So first we're going to take some Venom Worm from Army Painter. I didn't pick the Fanatic for this one because this just green is just so disgusting, and it wasn't in the Fanatic range. But we're going to want to paint all of the main armor pieces, basically. This green, this gross, floody, kind of, kind of grosser than army green, but, still kind of around that military green. So this is what it looks like all painted with one coat. Now this Army Painter paint, the normal stuff, isn't the best. So you definitely want to put two coats on it. It looks really messy right now, but trust me, it's going to get cleaned up really, really soon. The new Fanatic paints definitely look a lot better and cover a lot better. Now we're going to take some Everland Sunset, and we're going to paint a lot of these accent armor pieces, mainly on the arms. If you're wondering what armor coating I got the inspiration from, it's called Hidden Hope on Halo Infinite, which is going to look just like this once it's all finished. But yeah, you're going to want to put that yellow, put two coats of that on there. You can see here, this is the Brawler, and you can see how I have the yellow on those armor pieces. You kind of just, don't forget the kneecaps. Definitely don't forget the kneecaps, but you kind of just want to put it on the majority of the arms. Then we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade after all the yellow armor pieces are painted. And this is where that, the Army Painter paint, it's okay that it kind of went on there a little sloppy, because as soon as we put this on, you can see gets in all those grooves, really makes everything pop, especially when we get to that arm that we'll see in a second. This is just the chest, but you can already see it's pooling in those grooves. As soon as I hit that arm, looks so much better. Now I put a little bit too much on here, but I was able to take some off camera. But at least you can see that wash getting into the grooves. And this is what it looks like finished. It's still not dry yet, but yeah, it definitely looks gross, which is what we're going for. We will clean it up a little bit more, but yeah. While this is drying, we're going to want to paint that weapon, his assault rifle, and we're going to use Ashen Gray for that. But this helps us save some time while the wash is drying. Just want to make sure to get good coverage on that weapon there. Don't forget the backside. And we're going to take that Venom Worm Green. Now this isn't totally necessary, but we're going to try to clean up all that wash that's on the raised parts of the armor. So you can see me here going here, doing like a pretty generous edge highlight, but it's a little bit thicker than a normal edge highlight. We just kind of want to cover all those spots that aren't the grooves that has that wash in it. Okay, then we're going to take our Commando Green from Army Painter, and this is going to be a little bit more of an aggressive edge highlight. Now it goes on super green, but trust me, once it dries, it's going to blend in really nice. But yeah, we just want to get all the highlights on the edges. Really brings out the armor in that high contrast on the tabletop. To be honest, after I do this, I thought about going back and doing another higher green highlight on there, but I think this looks pretty solid. But now we're going to work on that yellow. You're going to take out the Flash Gets Yellow and do the same thing just on the yellow portions of the model. And this is kind of what it looks like. It really brings out and makes that yellow pop too. Now we're going to focus on the visor. Now this is kind of crazy, but we're going to take some Gemstone Fanatic paint from Army Painter. We're going to put this on the visor, and look how bright and red that is. They are clearly infected because even their visor color has changed. And I'll have a little bit of a lore tidbit towards the end, but yeah, look how nice this Fanatic paint. I just did one coat of this too. Metallic paint goes on. This is where it gets a little crazy. So you can see here in my Zvezda how much darker that visor is than on the Mark 7 on the left. We're going to darken it a little bit, but I didn't want to put just contrast on there because that would take away from the metallic. So we're going to use some rough iron metallic paint from Army Painter, not the Fanatic, just the normal kind, and mix it with some contrast paint. So we still want that metallic-y feel, but kind of put it on there like a wash, like a metallic wash or metallic contrast paint. Now I put a little bit too much on here, but the cool thing about that contrast medium is it spreads around really nice and it's really easy to take off and gives you a lot of time to play with it, but darkens it just enough to make it feel a little bit more evil. Then we're going to take some Administratum Gray. We're going to hit that assault rifle again with a dry brush now that we have the visor drying. I chose not to put metallics like chip paint on the weapons this time. I don't know why, but it just didn't feel right for these types of models. But I still just think the dry brush looked really great. Now, don't drop it like I did there, but you could stop here. This is a solid color scheme that you can use throughout your whole army. I thought about it. I thought about stopping here and not moving forward with the flood stuff, but I decided to move forward. This is a little piece of terrain I got from Army Crate, or not Army Crate, it's Terrain Crate. Snipped it off and put it on the base. Got some rusty pigment that I had laying around, dabbled it all over. Now you can put a little bit of orange after the strides. You can put a little bit of orange, is what I did, orange paint on some of that red to bring out the rust a little bit more. Then we're going to put some of that rust on the weapon as well. These Spartans, they're old. They're, slowly turning into the flood. Speaking of flood, we're going to be using this weathering effects, this kind of snowy weathering effects from Vallejo. And this is what we're going to put as the kind of infection. Now, you don't want to overdo it. I kind of overdid it with the Deadeye. I love that it's kind of ironic. Half of his face is, infected, so he only has one eye. But I definitely put too much on him. But you can easily just put it on with a paintbrush. The Mark 7 has this pointing arm on there, so I really want to put some of that infection on the arm. And then these little beads that I've gotten from like the little packets that keep stuff from getting moist in packages. I got these from a hiking pack, but I lost that one. But I just drop them on there. This is going to simulate the kind of like bubbly flood, cysts that are about to burst on there. Now I had this seafoam effect from Vallejo laying around, and I'm using this to seal up like the edges so it looks more like connected rather than just a ball on there. You could just use Elmer's glue or even just white paint to kind of fill those edges, but I know it's kind of hard to see because it's so white, but I'm really just filling those gaps to make it look like a giant pimple or something. Then take some Gilliman flesh, and we're going to use that as a contrast paint to get in all those parts. And here you can really see in that snowy effect, they have these bunch of little balls in there that make it look like little pustule, floody, bursting kind of infection sort of skin on there. It looks really, really cool. Next, we're going to take a series of Kevlar flesh and Eldar flesh, and we're going to dry brush these on the fleshy, floody bits. While I'm dry brushing here, I can tell you why I'm making these awesome Spartans flood forms. You're probably asking why I would ruin such cool models like this, especially in a pre-release copy that I got from Gen Con. Well, that's because I will, in the future, be making a tower defense like game type for Halo. I'm working on the map right now. But yeah, a tower defense Halo Flashpoint with, mountable turrets and being able to control a scarab gun. It's going to be really cool. But once I get my Spartan edition, I'm going to paint half of them this flood kind of color scheme as well. That way it's really fun to play against, and you can basically make it thematic like you're playing against the flood, basically, or just infected Spartans. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that, and like and comment the video. I'd like to get 500 subscriptions before the game officially releases. Now, the official story on these Spartans, like the backstory, is that they were sent down to basically protect UNSC soldiers, UNSC Marines, after they captured a scarab. Little did they know that on the scarab there was a small infection form, infected everyone, including the Spartans. And the other Spartans I painted in my other video were actually sent down to try to eliminate them. So we're going to take some Plague Bearer Flesh contrast paint. I love this contrast paint because it goes on so thin. You can see I'm putting them on these like giant pustules, and it goes on so thin and subtle that you can really layer up if you want to, but otherwise it makes a really gross kind of, you know, infected sort of effect. Alternatively, you can use yellow. A yellow would have looked really nice here, but I wanted to use green because Flood is notorious for being green. But you can see how that really comes out. I get into some of those grooves too. Then take some moon dust. We're going to dry brush the base with moon dust. It's a really good, you know, paint to dry brush with because it kind of, I don't know, it just works. And with the base being complete, I am going to call that done. This was really fun to work on. These guys look awesome. Probably my favorite models that I've ever owned and painted. And I have painted some much better than this, but they just turned out really, really nice. These poor Spartans that got infected trying to protect some UNSC soldiers don't know what's coming to them. I will have hopefully a narrative battle report once I finish this map, which, you know, is going to use the terrain that you see here. But otherwise, they're just going to look great. This might be my main army color scheme rather than my bronze one that I painted earlier when I play like competitively. But yeah, these guys look awesome. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that annoying YouTube stuff, and stay tuned. We got some big stuff planned.